Good evening, everybody, and first of all, thank you to the Brand Forum for inviting me to speak here this evening. I'm delighted to be here. It's a first for me, and what a beautiful and inspirational environment in which to deliver this presentation. I'm going to talk to you over the next while about the digital opportunity from a Tato point of view. So this is very specifically linked back to our More Than Just a Crisp campaign, which launched at the start of the year. I'm also going to cover off some other examples of activities that we've been doing in the online environment. The first thing I want to say, and this is the party political broadcast, is that Tato is the #1 crisps and snacks brand in Ireland today with 28% value share of the market. Digital has had nothing to do with the achievement of that leadership position. However, I am certain that it will play a pivotal role in the retention of that #1 slot in the future. And the reason being is that in order for us to grow our brand into the future, we need to really grow our consumer base, recruiting new consumers into the brand every day. And in order to do this, we have to be where they are, and that is within the digital environment. As we all know, the younger age cohort consumes digital at a tremendous rate. They are there day and night, checking their Facebook posts, checking Twitter. They want to be at the cutting edge, being the first to deliver new news to their online community. Retaining our already loyal fan base is as important to us as recruiting new consumers into the brand. With over 270,000 Facebook fans, we are the #1 FMCG brand on Facebook in Ireland today, which is quite phenomenal. And while it's very important for us to have broad reach, what's more important is the content that we deliver to that consumer or fan base. The youth audience, as I said, consumes more online content than any other age cohort. And they're very discerning about their choices. They won't like and share anything. It needs to be something that makes them look better in the eyes of their peers. So content is key to capturing their imagination, retaining it, and then getting them to act as advocates for the brand by liking and sharing the content that we provide to them. We have very, very clearly defined objectives within our digital strategy, which tie back to our overall brand strategy. But the most important of these objectives is relevance. If you're not relevant to your audience, they're not going to like you, they're not going to share the content that you're delivering to them, and you will disengage with them. In order to be seen as authentic and relevant, we need not to talk to our audience, but to act like them. And in doing so, we have to also define the tone with which we deliver our message to them, and then select the various social platforms in which we're going to deliver those messages. Our new More Than Just a Crisp campaign, which launched in February of this year, was at the centre of all our core communications on digital. And this was because we wanted, obviously, to launch to our fan base, first of all, to give them a first peek at new TV commercials, but also to get their feedback, because what's quite interesting about the digital format is that you can get instant response to your copy, which was quite, it's hard to take sometimes. You have to be quite thick-skinned because they can be very critical, but they can also come back with very positive commentary, which is the beauty of this environment. You're not going to get instant feedback through TV or outdoor. So we knew at a top-line level what we wanted to communicate, and then we just had to decide, well, which platforms are going to serve what purpose, and do we really have all the content required to be able to leverage those platforms effectively? And this is where, in various campaign development stages, other iterations of the campaign message are developed with social media in mind. I suppose it's a case of looking at all of the stories that you have to tell about the brand, but trying to put a unique spin on them, giving your audience the winner that is then going to be shared in their online community when they seed it out amongst all of their friends. We selected the platforms we were going to be using based on the reach in the instant or in the immediate stages of the campaign. So Facebook and Twitter were going to give us that broad reach. We then looked at Snapchat and Instagram to use tactically, and then went back to Facebook and Twitter again at the end of the campaign when we came off campaign and wanted to continue that conversation with our consumer base. And within the campaign timeframe, our objectives were to deliver on 4 key messages. The first was the More Than Just a Crisp campaign message, that core strapline. We wanted to bring that to life in the digital environment and give people a real understanding of what the purpose of that message was. The second one was to generate a little bit of hype around our pop-up shop, of which I'll talk more on later. The third part of this was then drawing attention to our on-pack promotion. We had an Ibiza promotion running as part of our overall campaign, so we needed to create awareness of that activity. And then the last stage was in relation to generating continuously engaging content for that youth audience that we wanted to continue to speak to long after we came off campaign. So in order to deliver on the first stage, well, we launched our TV commercials through Facebook. We then followed on with an engagement with our audience, which was led with a hashtag #TalkToTato. And the idea here was that given that the premise behind the TV commercials was that Mr. Tato was more than just a crisp, he was the personification of the brand who was going to be there for you in situations where you might have something embarrassing happening to you. We thought by generating this Talk to Tato conversation, people could give us examples, real life examples of situations where they could have done with a dig out from Mr. Tato. And we got a great response from our fans on Facebook. They cited all sorts of examples, some of which I probably should have removed from Facebook. We then decided we would run a little bit of a competition based on the responses that we received. And that was led through on social with a hashtag album of shame. So people with the most embarrassing examples were invited to post them there, and then we selected 5 winners. So we rewarded them for their efforts and for sharing their embarrassing stories. All of this started out on Facebook, and then we engaged real-time activity through Twitter. So it was very much utilising all the platforms available to us with the content that we had already developed on TV. Tracking and measuring each stage of all of our online activity is critical because this is what allows us to identify what's working and what's not working. And this is the beauty of digital activity because you can look at the Facebook page, you can look at the data and the insights, and it will tell you specifically what posts are working and which ones aren't. And this then allows you to tailor your communications in an existing campaign or indeed for future campaign activity. So we tracked each of the 4 stages of our campaign, and at the first stage, just when we were seeding that hashtag, more than just a crisp, we delivered over 1 million impressions, which was quite astounding. We had not expected that level of response. On Facebook, we did 22 promoted posts of the TV commercials and delivered 3.6 million impressions as a result, and secured an engagement rate of 7%, which is more than twice the industry norm, so a phenomenal result. And we saw similar results on Twitter with 9% engagement rate through our real-time activity and response to comments. I believe that there are 3 reasons why we had such fantastic engagement rates on this campaign. The first is the power of the brand. Tato is a beloved brand of the Irish people, and it's almost as if you can do no wrong with the Tato brand. People just adore it, so they are immediately predisposed to loving everything that the brand does. The second reason, though, I believe, is that there was a genuine excitement on the part of our fan base that there were new TV commercials for the brand available, that the brand was being supported again. I mean, in the context of, competition from international players, for the brand to be invested in, to be back on air, for outdoor to be appearing across the country, I think people have a great sense of pride in that Tato is fighting against the big boys, and that they really supported that sentiment. And then I think the third reason it worked so well is because the content was fantastic, and I would say that, wouldn't I? But the TV ads were really targeting that 22-year-old bullseye target. They knew that they were being spoken to, and they appreciated the fact that we had tailored our content to suit that audience, and they responded so favourably online with all of their comments. Twitter also played a key role in terms of, as I mentioned before, the real-time engagement. And I think the real-time facet within social is critical because it's about spontaneity and about being reactive. And it's been mentioned already by Aisling that, this is where your agility to respond to opportunities is critical. And it's hugely important to be ready for that in any campaign activation that we run. And back to the measurability of digital. During the more than just a crisp first stage activation, we were able to measure the most successful posts. This then allowed us to look at the content that achieved those peak times within the calendar, and for us to tailor any future communications to match the same type of content that would enable us to successfully generate engagement for the campaign. It also gave us more information. When you look at the data and the insights, you can see who your core influencers are. Who are the people who are seeding out your message to their audience? And influencers can range from just everyday bloggers to partners to celebrities. Anybody can be, act as an influencer. And the size of their audience can really be quite substantial. So it's important to consider them and to look at the analytics surrounding who your key influencers are at different stages of your campaign so that you can leverage them to get your message to a broader audience. So we thought the More Than Just a Crisp TV launch was a success. Well, little did we know what was coming on stream with the launch of the pop-up shop. We opened our first pop-up shop on Dublin's Wicklow Street on the 5th of March, and it was opened for 12 days. We sold Tayto crisp sandwiches over the course of its opening, along with Tayto branded merchandise. This was a fantastic success. People loved this, and they flocked to the location. And all the awareness for this pop-up shop was generated through digital. We didn't spend a penny on outdoor or TV or radio. It was all generated through digital. What we did was to create a time-lapse video when we were preparing the pop-up shop for opening. And we posted this on Facebook to give our fans a sneak preview of what was to come. We then did another video, which we posted on Facebook again, and this was around the launch of the activity. Now, our pop-up shop opened midweek, so many people wouldn't have been able to come and visit it until the weekend. But the purpose of the ad was to kind of whet their appetites, or the video rather, was to whet their appetites and generate that interest so that they would come flocking to the pop-up shop at the weekend. And that is exactly what they did. We had queues out the door, people stocking up on their Tayto crisp sandwiches, buying their Tayto branded merchandise, which otherwise was only available in Tayto Park. So it was fantastic. And we also did the charity link with the Dublin Simon community, which enabled us to give them a cheque at the end of the activity for €8,000, which we were very pleased about, and no doubt they were pleased about too. So phenomenal success, but an example of how we drew attention to an activity entirely through the digital forum. And the social posts around the pop-up shop were fantastic. We achieved 1.2 million impressions over the course of the hashtag Tayto pop-up shop. So again, fantastic result for relatively little spend in the greater context of things. We also used Facebook and Twitter to draw people's attention to Snapchat and our presence on Snapchat, which hadn't really been a major focus area for us. We sent one call out to people to join Mr. Tayto on Snapchat, and we're inundated with responses, which we hadn't expected. So this is definitely an area that we're going to explore for future communications. Snapchat launch performed particularly well through Facebook and Twitter in terms of cost per click and cut-through rates as well. We achieved cut-through rates in the region of 10%, which were significant in the overall scheme. We also used Twitter to talk again with real-time communications that were happening. And in this instance, Jamie Heaslip commented on the pop-up shop, and we were right there ready to respond to his comment, inviting him into the pop-up shop to enjoy Tayto crisp sandwiches. He's the type of influencer that is massively important for us in terms of his followers. He's got 200,000 followers. So it's the likes of Jamie Heaslip who can play a key role in getting our message to a broader audience. Our monitoring and tracking at this stage of the campaign also showed us which posts performed best in terms of just general activity out there. There was a competition that Evoke.ie ran for a chance to win a Tayto hamper. That generated significant response. And also when we announced that we were extending the opening of the pop-up shop to St. Patrick's Day, Spin FM featured this, and that in itself generated a massive amount of posts. And then we tie back the influencers during the pop-up shop opening and found that, of course, it all tied back to the people who generated those peak time posts, which were Evoke.ie and Spin FM. Instagram also got a look in. There were 49 mentions of our pop-up shop on Instagram. And again, this is a format that we wouldn't have used hugely, but it proved to be quite useful in terms of the visual entity that it is, and people were sharing images of packets of Tayto, but also images from the shop, images of the Tayto crisp sandwiches that they would have purchased. So this is definitely, again, a format that we will consider in future campaign activity. And then the third stage of our campaign was the launch of our promotional Ibiza pack. This was offering consumers the chance to win a trip to Ibiza for themselves and their 3 friends. And we launched this on Facebook and Twitter just again to gain momentum, to create awareness of the activity. And then we explained the mechanic of the on-pack promotion through Snapchat. So we created a small little video which literally walked you through the mechanic, because we were receiving quite a few calls from a few mammies actually who were saying, how do I participate in this activity? It was a text-to-win promotion with the code on the inside of the pack. So the video showed them exactly how to participate. It was just a simple little thing, but it added an extra dimension to our communication. Engagement rates were at a more modest level on this one at 1.5%, but I suppose it was coming off the back of the pop-up shop, so we can't always achieve double-digit numbers. Display advertising was another facet of our campaign activity, and display delivered 2 million impressions for us and an unprecedented cut-through level of 0.37%, which sounds very small, but it's actually 3 times the cut-through level in terms of industry norms. We also managed to achieve unique reach of 250,000 people, and this is 65% of the 15 to 34-year-old cohort that is online. So this was a massive reach for a very relatively low amount of spend in terms of the promotion of these display ads in various different entertainment websites and partner websites. Our use of social platforms was very much tailored to suit each stage of our campaign, with Facebook and Twitter delivering our scalable wins, and then Instagram and Snapchat delivering tactical communications to our consumer base. Prioritizing the platforms and planning content for each stage allowed us to maximize engagement and to really do so in a very cost-effective way. Overall, the campaign was a massive success. 7.5 million impressions were accrued over the course of all of those activities, with 1,200 social conversations generated. We also had a few learnings from our activity. We found that our Facebook activity and posts worked best when we used video. Instagram was a bit of a revelation to us in terms of its use by influencers, and Snapchat also in terms of the younger age cohort tapping into that format. Twitter also was particularly good for us in terms of engagement rates during real-time activations. And in fact, we had a bit of a media first with Twitter in our use of the gallery card, which I have pictured here. The gallery card is very visual. It takes up a lot of space on the news feed, and it has a very strong call to action asking the user to participate. We were the first to trial this format in Ireland and secured a 17.7% engagement rate on the back of this simple little question we put out there to our consumers in relation to whether Tayto was fried in sunflower oil, true or false, and they responded. We drove over 1 million impressions on Twitter and 60,000 engagements, a phenomenal result. And actually Twitter are considering using this as a test example for their Irish case study, because this has never been done before in Ireland. So outside of campaign activity, what do we do? Well, plenty. We're always alert, always eyes and ears open and wondering what's happening, what's the next big thing that we can tap into. And the perfect example here is the activity around the Web Summit in November of last year, when Eva Longoria posted a call out to her 7 million Twitter followers. OK, Dublin, here I come. What is a must-see and must-eat when I land? Now, I don't know if you can see it from where you're sitting, but the time on that post is 9:46 p.m. In my experience, and maybe it's the arrangements that I would have made with some of the digital agencies I've worked with over the years, but in my experience, they switch off at 5 p.m. But in our case, we have an in-house social media manager. She saw this, she responded immediately. And I think that is a key nugget of information and a real consideration, I think, for all businesses to have somebody in-house who's able to do this for you. The other thing is that her knowledge of the brand is so extensive that she doesn't need to go through various levels of, can we approve this? Do we need to get sign off? Does legal need to take a look at what we're using, which can be the case in certain organizations. As a custodian of the brand, along with the rest of the brand team, she has the authority to be able to take a decision based on her knowledge of the brand, and she was able to respond immediately, and what ensued was PR heaven. It was phenomenal. That call out resulted in Eva Longoria being driven around Dublin the next day, which was going to happen anyway. Apparently the Web Summit provided a driver, She went to see the Book of Kells in Trinity. She drove all around, and then she asked if she could be brought to see a packet of Tayto. And her driver obliged. She picked up a packet of smoky bacon, and lo and behold, the picture went online, and stories were being written about this story everywhere, left, right, and centre. That would never have materialised had our social media manager not responded as quickly as she had. And then it lived on. We decided to keep the momentum going, so we sent Eva a couple of packets, or rather a couple of boxes of Tayto, cheese and onion this time, as well as smoky bacon, just in case she hadn't tasted the #1 flavour in Ireland. And she retweeted it. Obviously, Jameson jumped in on the act as well, and they got a shot there. But that's fine, we don't mind sharing the limelight. And Daily Edge, all sorts of online news media organisations picked up on the story. I mean, this was the gift that kept on giving. She then went on the Late Late Show. 500,000 viewers saw Eva Longoria talking about her experiences with the Tayto brand. I mean, this was just phenomenal. We couldn't believe what was happening. And then when she went back to the States, she carried on. They started talking about Tayto on the Seth Meyers show. 3.4 million viewers heard about the Tayto brand. This is all back to that point about in-housing social media management. Had it not been for that pickup at around 10 p.m. on the 2nd of November, none of this would have happened. It's quite phenomenal. And what did we invest in it? Zero. We did not spend a penny on any of that activity, and look what we got back. Between Facebook and Twitter, over 8 million impressions. It was quite phenomenal. It really was just a major win for us. And something we celebrated every day, every time we saw a post. And this is why we value the digital environment. We continue to use social media to drive consideration, appeal, and relevance of our brand to our audience, be it through our comments during the marriage referendum, or indeed posting up in relation to the launch of the Tayto sandwich on Aer Lingus, and then finally, and more recently, the launch of the roller coaster at Tayto Park. All of these properties are an excuse, a platform for us to be able to talk more about our brand and to really get the consumer to engage with our brand. And ultimately, that is what all of this is all about. So, what of our findings and our future directions? Well, I would say the first is not to forget traditional media. It still has a role to play, particularly when you're trying to reach a really broad audience and an older audience who won't be online to the extent that those younger guys are. In-housing of tech-savvy social media management is critical. I've already highlighted the reasons for that. And owning and controlling content on free platforms. I mentioned earlier that evoke.ie ran a competition to give away a Tayto hamper. And in them running that activity on their website, they actually generated more fans, more traffic to their webpage. And there is a little bit of give and take in this environment, but ideally, all of the competition activities should be run on your own platform so that you're winning more fans rather than giving them away to other people. And I would say as well that you need to be cautious in relation to who you partner with. There are mutually beneficial partnerships, which again will drive traffic to your fan base or to your platform. But you can't do so to the point where it's an annoyance to your fans who you have won hard through all of your effort and communications to them. The last thing you want to do is to annoy them with posts that they have not subscribed to. They won't thank you for it. In fact, they will defriend you. So it needs to be treated very sensitively. I think there's also merit in reviewing how our own websites can work harder for us, because Facebook are tightening the reins in terms of how we utilize it. They're acting like, like Reach would act. They're trying to monetize the opportunity for communicating to a broader audience. Whereas if we enrich our own content on website, we'll give fans a reason to visit our website. And this is the good example of this is Coca-Cola have just done so very recently in their Journey website. They've created far more content that will give consumers a reason to go and visit the website as opposed to visiting some of the other platforms. And that gives them back control. And I think that's something that's critical and needs to be considered by all brands. I mean, overall, the digital landscape is changing at a phenomenal rate. Today's experts are practically tomorrow's has-been, such as the velocity of change within this environment. And I think in order for anybody to work effectively in this landscape, we need to have a very agile technical team that will help us to navigate through the digital environment so that they can allow us to deliver a message in a new way. And I think that is really the area where the opportunity lies. Thank you very much for your attention. I'm going to leave you now with an ad for a video of our pop-up shop, which was open in March of this year. Thanks a million.
An awesome idea. It's cool that it's now in Dublin and that anyone around the city can get one for lunch if they're in need of a crisp sandwich.
I think it's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. I'm devastated it's only open for 10 days. You know, it's a shame it's not open longer. I'd come here every day.
It's been a long time since I had a cheese and onion sandwich, so I'm looking forward to trying it. And obviously it goes to charity as well, Simon Community, so that's great as well.
My favourite flavour is definitely prawn cocktail.
Cheese and onion.
Salt and vinegar.
Cheese and onion. Prawn cocktails, my favourite.
Cheese and onion, all the way.